And so we kickstart today's episode of Jasiri with the ladies with diving into what has been on social media causing a furore. Why is it such a big deal that billionaires, millionaires, people in high authority or places of power, what's the big deal by, as in, you know, with the dawn of Gen Zs and the digital media moving around, now there's lines that are blurred and no one really knows exactly where what is and what that. But there's some traditional schools of thought who believe that leave matter for Matthias. What am I talking about? So billionaire Tony Elumelu, who is also the chairman of the UBA group, was hosting a session, and everyone knows how he's very passionate about young people investing in their growth and all of that. So there was this young trainee who addressed him, who wanted to say something, and addressed him by his first name and called him, hello, Tony. Huh? Hello, Tony. And he said,
good morning, Tony.
After 5 working days. He said, huh? What did you just say? What did you say?
He said Tony. And then she was like, no, I said Tony.
So, so exactly, what is the big deal now? Tony says it doesn't surprise. Said, for moments like these, address me as appropriate, either chairman or Mr. Elumelu.
Or TOE.
Yes, or TOE's initials.
Or, you know. And this conversation that we're having this morning actually started in the makeup room, but we said, let us save our energies so we can dissipate the energy here. Let's listen to how this would play.
Good morning, Tony.
Tony.
I said good morning, Tony.
Okay, no, you won't call me Tony. I'm not those people. You call me Mr Elumelu or TOE. You won't call me Tony or chairman. I don't subscribe to that kind of Oyibo life, okay? All right.
Good morning, Mr. Elumelu.
Thank
so my
you.
question is, how do you know if you are to keep going?
Okay.
Good morning, Kat.
Good morning, ladies. Okay. What seemed to be the problem? Do you think he was reacting?
Don't you have reactions?
Overreacting?
Do we have reactions?
I don't think we do. Wait, okay, so let me
Yeah, we do have.
So, we do?
We do have reactions.
Should we take reactions
Let's
before
take
we take
reactions.
it?
Yes.
Why? Don't let the reactions sway what you want to
This
say.
babe is so rude and mannerless. This is not the Western world where such things are common. Nigeria is still a respect-oriented society. It's common sense to address an elder by Mr. or Mrs. Calling him Tony is very disrespectful. This babe was wrong. It's not even about being woke. It's about learning how to address people in a formal setting. Unless they tell you to go by first name basis, you have to add the titles. Come on. My opinion, the lady did nothing wrong. If I guess right, she's a graduate of their graduate trainee program. Anyone who once passed through that system knows they're trained to call people by their first name. The way you are all abusing the lady is unnecessary. If Tony was at a forum in the West and someone called him Tony, he wouldn't rebut in this manner. All these instructions are for very poor people. It's the same way Burna Boy won't step on the head of a fan abroad, but him go use boot, come out Nigerian fan teeth. The respect people have for you is commensurate to how rich and powerful you are. If it is company policy to refer to people by their first name, why is the chairman above this policy? I understand the cultural sentiments, but she's doing exactly what HR promotes. If he does not subscribe to it, then it should not be a company policy. She called him like she was calling her younger brother or someone in their neighborhood. How silly and uncouth can you be to address a whole billionaire as Tony?
You see, my problem with
But
this
then,
is
before we go on, there is another video that resurfaced. In this clip, Tony Elumelu is seen being interviewed by another young interviewer who referred to him as Tony without receiving the same correction. You know, that has prompted some Nigerians to ask, is it a matter of context or relationship, or is there a double standard? Let's look at both videos, then we can now pull all our
There are
resources
some reactions
together.
to this even.
Oh, we'll take the reactions, then we'll react all together.
So great to have you here. Thank you for being with us today.
Good to meet you too.
You are one of the most celebrated and most decorated business leaders in Africa, and I would posit the world. So it's truly an honor to be able to host you at Stanford this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
We watched a video earlier where we learned a little bit about the foundation, which we'll speak about towards the later half of the interview. But we saw there that you're such a supporter and such an advocate of entrepreneurship. Hi, Tony. It's so great to have you here. Thank you for being with us today.
Good to meet you too.
You are one.
This one is what Yoruba will say.
That's what I was waiting for. And that's why I said let's
No,
not
but did you guys
have the
notice
conversation
something?
there.
When she called him by that name, Tony, I don't think he was happy about it. But he
But
just
why didn't you
had
correct
to.
her?
Because it's not his
the
house.
setting matters. It's not his house. It's not Nigeria.
Which is what I'm saying.
And you know, the setting matters as well. You go abroad. Even your friends call your mom by their name. They don't really care about, you know, miss or whatever. So it's like that. So I think this is the reason why he did not correct her. But you could tell that he wasn't.
He was a bit uncomfortable.
I think there's a bit of double standards
It's not
there.
double standard.
No, let me not. I think there's a bit of double standards where he is, because in one breath, you're preaching the Gen Z wokeness. You're preaching that, and probably that's because you want to lure in or you want to encompass the Gen Z digital media population. And in another breath, you're saying that, okay, no, call me by my designated name. While I get that, Dashin, you said it's a different setting. It's not his house. That's why it can be called. I've anchored a show where I've had people older than me who have been on the show, and I call them by their first names. And people didn't understand that. Why is she disrespectful? You're way younger than these people. Why are you calling them by their first names? But sometimes that's what the work decides. You do that. But the moment you begin to open that door abroad and you say, oh, because of environment change, it's not the same, so it's acceptable abroad or elsewhere to be called by a first name. He didn't strike me as someone who didn't mind to be called Tony, because he's always saying doing Gen Z stuff, being funky and all of that. And so if you don't put borders and if you don't draw the line, all these things we're talking about, oh, traditional, you don't have home training, you must call him by his designated, you must. I don't think he has made those boundaries clear enough that, listen, when it comes to work or when it comes to call me by my name, Mr Elumelu, what are you even funkifying by?
One thing that I want
call me T-O-E.
I just want to
Is that the same? Is that not funkifying it as well?
I just want to say something. You talked about, when you've interviewed people and all that. And I interview a lot of, people every day from all around, the world, right? But especially when I'm not comfortable with your surname, because there's so many names that I cannot pronounce and all that. So in media, it's a different setting. Let's just, the second video feels like, a media kind of interview, like an exclusive interview as well. It is allowed for you to call a person by their first name, except they have, titles like doctor, professor, and all that, or chief, and then they want you to call them by that name, right? But normally for a Gen Z, right, out of respect, for example, if a Gen Z should see you now, the first thing she should do is call you by Miss Catherine. And if you do not like the miss, out of respect, and they tell her, no, you can call me by my name. That should be the first thing. And in that setting, she's a trainee in his organization.
Thank you.
Yes. Right? So that respect should have been accorded. It's like,
but is it not the same
when I came,
organization that they say?
I'm getting somewhere. When I came to, News Central, right? We were told that, we call people by their first name basis here, right? But you don't see me calling Mr. Kayode Kayode, or calling him by his name. I call him Mr. K or Mr. Akintemi because he is way older and he is at the top there. So that respect should be accorded. And I have a lot of interns who call me Miss Dashin as well. Do you understand? And some of them call me Dashin. I really do not mind, right? If I was uncomfortable with being called Dashin, I would have told them, oh no, please put some respect on it. But he is your boss. You should have accorded him, in the presence of every other person, accord him that respect.
Another thing I want to bottom, maybe because I'm towing the same line that Dashin is towing. Every organization has a policy. And if their policy is first name basis, it would be a general norm. Everybody would know. And if she's a graduate trainee in one of their in-house programs, I want to believe that she would have inculcated that culture. And him speaking against it like this would probably be inappropriate. But maybe she was just caught in the moment. I don't
know what moment that was.
I'm just trying to, I'm looking for the worst reason or whatever. Maybe she was just, it just came out, and before she could think or recalibrate.
That moment you're talking about, I think he did not mind.
But she looked confident.
Listen, he did not mind being called Tony. But listen, as soon as she called him Tony, she giggled. What was the giggle for? That was the disrespectful thing. You called him, you giggled, and then he was quiet. And then when he heard the giggle, he was like, excuse me, did you call me? Did you get?
Did you call? Just call me. But as far as it's not like a policy.
You know, unfortunately, for me, I feel like I agree with Kat in certain instances, and I agree with you. I think the reason why she called him by his name, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm gonna go against the norms, because in that specific room, we can't even compare the two videos. I would have had a different notion if in that specific room someone else called him Tony and he had no problem with it. Again, like we said, I'll make an example for you. I think everybody on this table knows Caroline Levitt, right? The former press secretary for the United States.
Yes.
Donald Trump is her president, right? That is the president of outside of the country. That is the president of the White House, right? She will never, after speaking and saying, Mr. President, Mr. President, Mr. President, then they say Donald Trump is calling you into his office and you say, hi, Donald.
Yeah.
He will always be Mr. President.
Yeah.
Now, where I'm going with this is, again, like we say, when you are in Rome, you behave like the Romans do. She was not the first person to ask the question. I would understand if she asked the question first, then she needed to be corrected such that a precedent is set. She was not the first one. And everyone in that room that was asking questions started with, good morning, sir. Whatever. Olive and I were actually having a conversation this morning on our way to work, and I said that even me, who is not Nigerian, in South Africa, we are a first name basis. That all corporate structures are like that. Sir and ma is here that I learned that. Right? We are on a first name basis. But because I understand that I am not in my country, and I understand the decorum and the culture, because sir and ma is not even a decorum thing in Nigeria. It's a culture. It's an institute or institution of respect. I will sir you and I will ma you to eternity.
Yes.
Right? The contradiction with what Dee said with him being at Oxford University, it's not your house.
It's not your house. It's
and
different.
because it is, and for you to know that he understood, even he, the Mr. Elumelu, understood the difference of where he was. The last statement that he made to her is, I don't subscribe to the Oyibo, because he knows that outside he can work.
Tone matters, and that was what I was talking about her giggling, because it felt like she rebelled against what was normal.
Yes,
right?
she wanted to go against the current.
Because
it was a very intentional
thing. Like what you said.
Yeah.
Because when he even corrected her, she did not apologize. Well,
exactly. I would have expected, I honestly expected, I apologize, sir, Mr. Elumelu.
But if you looked at her toe, if you looked at her face, you could see the demeanor. No, for me, honestly enough, the demeanor was a little bit, she looked a bit shameful, but she was like, I'm going to write it on. She looked, because if you remember, I said, there was just that, that gallantness.
She was exhuming confidence.
Yes.
Right?
Because, okay, so what we're doing now is looking at body language and looking at, you know, the before and the after and the during of the body language and the interpretation of the body language. See, for me, I know a lot of employers and a lot of people nowadays would do anything to please the Gen Zs. Or you don't want to rock the boat of the Gen Zs. The Gen Z will come and tell you, oh, I have a headache today, my mental health's at stake. I can't make it to work today. Like, I don't understand.
And I have such a, sorry for cutting you, I have such a problem with this accommodation of Gen Zs, where they also make statements, where people make statements like, no correct home training and whatnot. I'll make an example for you. Your eldest is how old, Lolo?
21.
21 years of age, right? You don't have to disclose your own age. But if your eldest is 21, your mother is ranging from a specific age group. Some still have their grandparents. So you can bet for free that us who are crying this and saying this is disrespectful trained these kids correctly. It's when they get outside that they decide that we want to reorientate the norms. If you're going to talk to me about kids that are probably their reframing or whatever is probably different. Is kids that perhaps people are in their 30s that are going to give birth to. But if I am having a kid in my 30 years of life, I've got a mother who is still alive by the special grace of God. If I do something like this, my mother will be like, excuse me, to the grandchild. You get what I'm trying to say? So I don't subscribe to the fact that these kids are badly behaved because there is no home training. There is a different norm that they are wanting to introduce, which is contradictory to what they have been done. I thank my mother because my mother beat me upside my head And the problem is we want to inculcate this gentle parenting.
Gentle
Now,
parenting. Therefore,
that's another
as far as I'm
conversation.
concerned, this girl now, the kind of public backlash she would have received. In fact, I'm sure that some employers can even this can victimize her, actually. They can, some will look at her and say, Naila, not in my organization. I'm not going to employ somebody who is this disrespectful.
Even the foundation hires people.
Other Gen Zs and Gen Z employers will applaud her. Gen Zs will stand
you stood your ground.
And said you stood your ground.
What is it about
these people need to understand that the world is changing. And so there's two sides to this coin.
To this coin.
Any side that anyone is looking at that favors you or that works for you is what you accept, and that's it. We can argue on both sides.
We can argue, and that's why I told the line of Inam. It depends on where you are at. And there's something called reading the room. It's part of emotional intelligence. If you're not the first person to ask a question, I would have read the room. Do you know sometimes, Catherine, we all MC on this table.
Yes.
Have you not prepared a presentation?
But
when you read the room,
you had to
change. I changed it. I went to an event. They invited me. They never told me it was a Christian Christian event. I had already planned my whatever I'm going to talk. But as I sat in the room, I had to be recalibrating. So I believe that younger people, you should please implore for yourself, learn for yourself emotional intelligence. Learn to read the room.
There was something I told Lolo one time, and I said, do you know how far a single greeting can actually take you? It's as good as opening your mouth and telling the right person at the right time, good morning, ma. That is it. Your life will change forever.
You know, there's some people who also tell you that.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I've greeted her good morning, ma. So I say I don't like. I have friends who run their own businesses who say when they say good morning, I say no, please call me Lola Day. Oh, please call me.
That's you know that is something like my kids. When I was growing up, I called all my sisters auntie. None of our siblings call her auntie. It's the norm in my house. Everybody is on first name basis. That's how I raised my children. But that wasn't how my parents raised me.
Yes.
Everybody is auntie.
Inam was talking
exactly.
About that. Yes.
But I implore my children that when you go out, when they come here, have you said hello to Auntie Catherine? Have you greeted Auntie Nam? Because that's not your house. That's when I said, when Dashin said, this is his house. I agreed 100%. So you have to learn the norms of where you are at. And I just pray that, this doesn't blow back negatively on her career-wise.
Frankly, I don't think so, because whether we like it or not, employers, I've seen guys, I'm telling you, employers are making excuses for
but you know, old school employers will hold this against you, Kathy.
You see.
It's new agers that will just let it pass.
That's what I'm saying. But how much of the old schoolers are there? Because everyone's on social media. You want to buy into the Gen Z community. So, to some extent, you have to let some things give because of what you intend.
That's actually quite
true.
It's context
they can't really throw out the baby with the bathwater.
I know, and I'm not. Do you know I would have exonerated her of all this? Okay, I tried to make excuse for her. If she had just corrected, I say, I apologize, sir, and she moved on. That would probably have just wiped the slate. But she just called him by name and did not acknowledge the correction.
Gen Z is a different conversation. Gen Zs that are telling you they go out to talk about.